The leaves are changing colors and falling to the ground, creating rich piles to jump in. You wake up and there's a crispness to the morning air. The world seems to breathe a sigh of relief from the warmth of summer. And that's right, it's fall. Today on the Poetry Lab podcast, I'm sharing ways you can fill your creative cup this autumn. Whether you use these ideas exactly or let them springboard you into something else, I think you'll leave this episode feeling renewed and ready to create. Are you ready, poet? Let's go.
Welcome to the Poetry Lab podcast. The Poetry Lab started 11 years ago to help dedicated, self-taught, and formally trained writers find a place in their community to write, read, learn, and collaborate. We help writers tap into their craft with radical self-compassion, unlike anything you've ever seen in a creative writing classroom before. If you're a creative person trying to establish a writing practice in the real world, this podcast is designed to help you carve out the time, the courage, and the inspiration to keep writing your new shit. Are you ready, poet? Let's get into it.
Welcome, dear listeners, to another episode of the Poetry Lab podcast. I'm Lori Walker, and today I'll be sharing some ways for you to fill your cup this autumn. This is the second episode in this series, and I've got to say, autumn is tied with spring as my second favorite season. I am a summer gal at heart, and winter is like 100th on my list of favorite seasons. So this episode is full of fun ideas for making the most out of autumn. Hopefully these ideas will leave you feeling renewed, refreshed, energized, and inspired to write some new shit while you're at it. Before we get into those ideas, I want to do a quick little recap about this series in case you missed the earlier episode about summer. I believe there is a lot of beauty out in the world and that we should engage with it. I believe each season provides us with a whole new set of ways to explore and make the most out of it. And the idea for this series sprang in part from Julia Cameron's artist dates, which she explores in great detail in The Artist's Way. But putting it succinctly, Cameron defines an artist date as a block of time specifically set aside and committed to nurturing your creative consciousness. It is a date that you take yourself and your creative mind on a solo outing. And it gets you out of your creative space and out into the world. It gets you out of your comfort zone and interacting with the world in some way. Now, the other part of this idea is to partake in the local seasonal delights that your world has to offer. I know that we're listening to this episode from a variety of places, and not everyone is going to have the same options available. So I encourage you to use these ideas as a jumping off point and adapt them to what is available to you geographically and financially, even though I have tried to keep these ideas free or inexpensive, or also, just even temporally, like how much time you have available to do these. All right, let's fill that cup. Making chili is an easy transition into fall for me. I have a fantastic chili recipe that I've developed over the years, and I can throw it all together in my crock pot in the morning, and then the house starts to smell good a couple of hours later. And the best part of chili, in my opinion, is leftover chili. So after the ingredients have gotten to have a bit of a party in the fridge, I like to heat up the chili and serve it over noodles for what's called three-way chili, at least in Oklahoma. And I'm going to stick with the food theme for a little bit so that I can just get myself fully hungry and then move on, as opposed to like keep circling back to it. Fall, autumn is also the start of soup season. So whatever soups you like, go for it. Cook them. Apples are really hot this time of year, and maybe you live near a place where you can pick apples, or you can buy a big old bag of apples and make a pie or caramel apples, or just eat the apples while they're, fresh and in season. Speaking of buying a big old bag of apples, Hit up your local farmer's market. As the seasons change, so do the offerings at the farmer's market. And then you can plan a meal based around what you find. Hell, you can even make it a potluck and invite your friends to make their own seasonal creation to share together. The pumpkin patch is always a big hit this time of year. You can, of course, carve the pumpkins for jack-o'-lanterns, or you can decorate them into a nice little fall tableau. My mom will buy pumpkins and gourds in various colors. I have no idea that there were so many colors of pumpkins, but there's like white and green and obviously the orange and just all kinds of colors. And she'll decorate the inside of her house with them, and that shit will last for months. If you do carve pumpkins, you can roast the seeds for a nice little snack or a topping for your morning oatmeal. Personally, my flavor profile tends to change as we hit fall. I crave more cinnamons and nutmegs, so I wind up ordering a lot of chai lattes. And I also make them super dirty with like 3 shots of espresso. Related, another drink you can make mulled wine or cider and then sip a thermos of it outside on your porch or while walking around and enjoying the fall colors. I think that about covers the food side of things, so I'm going to move on. Speaking of the colors, autumn is a great time to go leafing. And I think that's actually a word. If it's not, we're just going to pretend like it is. In autumn, it's finally cool enough, at least where I am, to start going on walks outdoors again. So you can just walk around your neighborhood and notice the changing colors of the leaves. Another option for the leaves in grad school, one of the gals that I went to class with, she loved crunching through the leaves on campus in her galoshes. And a third option is that you could rake up the leaves and then jump in them like you did when you were a little kid. Exercise, a chore, and some play all rolled into one. Basically, autumn is a good time to spend outdoors. The weather is cooler, and it's kind of like a last chance to be outdoors before you're buried alive in winter. So maybe think about going on a camping trip or a horseback ride or reading or watching a movie outdoors. If you have the ability, you can get one of those little fire pit things. Those are a blast to sit around day or night as it gets cooler. You can be alone with your thoughts, observing nature, perhaps writing or reading, maybe burning some shitty old drafts of something or just burning something to symbolically release it. Or you can have your friends, your partners, and or your family join you for conversation, games, and s'mores. Also outdoors, you can do yoga outdoors. And I almost forgot that one, but it is one of the things that I love doing, getting up in the morning and doing some yoga outside in nature. I love it. And then I'm also going to go ahead and address the big pink dragon in the room, spooky season. It's not my thing, but I know it is for a lot of people. And there are tons of haunted events that you can visit, scary movie nights you can plan, etc. It could be a fun time to break out the Ouija board or the tarot cards and engage with the spirits. This part of spooky season I do enjoy. And then Oktoberfest is also very popular in the fall, and many places have some sort of Oktoberfest celebration that just celebrates all things German, German beer, German food, or maybe it's more like called Oktoberfest because it occurs in October, but there's just like regular beer and carnival food. Either way. And, speaking of Oktoberfest, there's lots of different fall festivals that people have. And I tend to see a lot more craft fairs during the fall. So those are all fun things to hit up. You don't necessarily have to buy things, but you can, and you can just sort of walk around and observe. Circling back to pumpkin patches, many of those have a corn maze attached to them, or maybe a hayride option. That could be something to do, especially if you've got kiddos around. And then the final thing, when you do sit down to write, this would be a perfect time to break out a fall scented candle. I must admit, I do feel a little something extra when I light a candle while I write, But I just super avoid candles during the summer because I don't need to add more heat. But maybe I'll get some fall candles for this year, though. There we go. Some of my favorite ways to fill your cup this autumn. Just like with the summer episode, I'm sure that as soon as I hit end record, I'll get 10 more activities in my mind that I forgot to mention, but that's just the way it goes. I need to remember to write them down so that way I've got material for next autumn, right? Whether you love autumn or not, I hope these activities spark your own ideas for engaging with the season and filling your cup, and in turn, helping you write some new shit. If you liked this episode, please give us a like and a follow and help us spread the word about our podcast by texting the link to a few creative friends. You can also find us at thepoetrylab.com/podcast. Again, I'm Lori Walker, and you can find me on Instagram at Lori the Writer, or peruse my website at loriwriteswords.com. I'm also in the process of setting up a Substack, and I will link to that on my website when it's ready. That's all for now. I'll catch you soon at the Poetry Lab.